the audio, just for those of you who are wondering, there's no, doesn't show our pictures, just our lovely voices. So thanks for coming. And hello to everyone. My name is Lisa, and welcome to Ontario Speaks, which is being hosted by the Helping Hand and Heart Narnon Family Group. We're really happy that you found us. I qualify as chair, as I've been affected by someone else's addiction. Nar-Anon family groups are a worldwide fellowship for those affected by someone else's addiction. As a 12-step program, we offer our help by sharing our experience, strength, and hope. We carry the message of hope by letting others know that they're not alone, practicing the 12 steps of Nar-Anon, and by changing our own attitudes. All are welcome and included, respecting race, creed, nationality, religion, gender identity, sexual orientation, or any other attribute. We will respect your anonymity. Our program is not a religious one, but a spiritual way of life. So to avoid any background noise, please remember to mute your microphones unless you're sharing. We do ask that people only use their first name and last initial, or sometimes people put their first name and where they're from, but we do ask that you don't use your last name. If you need help doing that, Marg can do that for you. Oh, there's Sandra who needs help. Marg, I don't know if you can see her waving down there. She's incognito as Zoom user.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I could see you waving there. Okay, let's just take a moment of silence now and we will do the serenity prayer. Okay. God, grant me the serenity to
Serenity,
accept the things I cannot change,
change,
courage to change the
change,
things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Since this is a virtual meeting, let's please honor each other's presence fully as if we're gathered together in the same room. If you can't be fully present for everyone or for all of the meeting, we welcome you to remain, but just shut your camera off. So to minimize distractions. This also includes if you're smoking or vaping. Okay, so we may have some newcomers here tonight. So can I get a volunteer to read the newcomers welcome? I can't see
I
you,
can
so,
I
okay.
can do that. It's Pam.
Okay, Pam, go ahead.
The Narnon family group is primarily for you who know or have known a feeling of desperation concerning the addiction problem of someone very near to you. We have traveled that unhappy road too and found the answer with serenity and peace of mind. When you come into the family group, you are no longer alone, but among true friends who understand your problem as few others could. We will respect your confidence and anonymity, as we know you will respect ours. We hope to give you the assurance that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness is too great to be overcome. Our program, which is not a religious one, but a spiritual way of life, is based on the 12 steps of Naranam. We have found that the working of these steps will bring the solution to practically any problem. We urge you to take this program and its 12 steps seriously. It has been as helpful to us as the Narcotics Anonymous program is to the addict. We only ask for the wisdom and courage to see ourselves as we really are, to do something about ourselves with the help of a higher power as we understand this, and for the grace and to release our addicts with love and cease trying to change them. Keep an open mind and attend as many meetings as possible. Feel free to share during the meeting. You may ask questions after the meeting. You will soon make new friends and will feel very much a part of the group. With the understanding that addiction is a disease and the realization that we are powerless over it, as well as over other people's lives, we are ready to do something useful and constructive with our own. Then and only then can we be of any help to others? Thank you for letting me share. Read.
Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it. Can I have a volunteer to read the 12 steps?
I can do that, Lisa.
I
It's
can
Mark.
do that. This is Betty. Oh,
Okay, so Mark, you can do the steps, and Betty, can you do the traditions?
I
All right.
can.
Great. Go ahead, Mark.
The 12 steps of Naranan family groups. 1, we admitted we were powerless over the addict, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
Thanks, Mark. And Betty, just before you get started, I see that someone is logged in using a Samsung phone, and it doesn't identify your name. So can we get...
No, it's just Japanese. It says John. It's just Japanese.
No, maybe that's not the same. I'm looking at something that says Samsung SM. Oh, so you're saying it's in Japanese. So what did you say your name was?
I said my name's John. It's written in Japanese characters, but
Okay, no, that's not the one I'm talking about then. I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it's me. My name's Leah.
Okay, Leah. And I don't see John. So I'm just trying to find you again now so that I can change it to say Leah. Maybe you did already. Okay. Sorry, we're just really particular about that so that we can make sure that it's not we've had issues with AI and others.
No worries.
Okay, thanks, Leah. Okay, sorry, Betty, go ahead with the 12 traditions.
Okay. Our group experience suggests that the unity of the Naranan family groups depends upon our adherence to these traditions. Number 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal progress for the greatest number depends on unity. 2, for our group purposes, there is but one authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3, the relatives of addicts, when gathered for mutual aid, may call themselves a Naranan family group, provided that as a group they have no other affiliation. The only requirement for membership is that there be a problem of addiction in a relative or friend. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other Naranan family groups or NA as a whole. 5, each Naranan family group has but one purpose, to help families of addicts. We do this by practicing the 12 steps of Naranan, by encouraging and understanding our addicted relatives, and welcoming and giving comfort to families of addicts. 6, our family groups ought never to endorse, finance, or lend our name to any outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary spiritual aim. But although a separate entity, we should always cooperate with Narcotics Anonymous. 7, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Naranan 12-step work should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, our groups as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. The Narnon family groups have no opinion on outside issues. Hence, our name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, films, internet, and other forms of mass media. We need guard with special care the anonymity of all NA members. And 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles above personalities. Thank you for letting me serve.
Thank you very much. And one more, if I can get a volunteer to read today's sesh reading.
I can do that. This is Lisa C.
Great, Lisa. Go ahead. I'm putting it on the board here. There you go.
So it's Taking Care of Me, May 30th, page 151 in the sesh book and on the screen. I'm finding that Naranon can help me in all areas of my life, not just with addiction. My work is stressful and my many appointments require a tight schedule. This past week, I had 20 meetings scheduled. Even after my reminder calls, some did not show up and a few called to reschedule. Things were not going as planned. I'd expected my week to go smoothly. Before going to Naranon meetings, working the steps, and using the other tools of the program, I would have obsessed about how inconsiderate these people were. How dare they make a commitment and not follow through? I'm learning that I cannot expect others to have the same priorities as me. I can take care of myself by planning what to do and to let go when I'm disappointed. I can let go of my expectations. I can acknowledge my disappointment, but I can also decide how I want to feel. Instead of feeling resentful, I can be at peace with things the way they are. I can look at the positive and appreciate the people who did show up and understand why some needed to reschedule. Thought for today. I will take care of me, my schedule, my feelings, and my needs. I do not have to be tossed aside, and I can be free of resentment and anger and enjoy my life's moments. And the quote, while transformation results in changes in thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, the actual process of transformation does not involve changing these things directly, but instead requires a change in perspective, altering one's core assumptions about the nature of things. That's by Marilyn Schultz Mandela, PhD. Thanks for letting me read.
Thank you very much. That's a great sesh reading today. Okay, so tonight, as you know, it is our Ontario Speaks, which happens on the 5th Friday of each month that has 5 Fridays. So our next one after today will be at the end of August. So if you're interested in speaking for Naranon, or if you're interested in speaking for on behalf of Narcotics Anonymous or your experience in NA, that would be great, or another 12-step program. But tonight, I'm going to be the Naranon speaker. It's been a while since I've shared my story, so things, and I went back over some notes that I'm going to be using because I'm not that clever. And things have really changed, I think, for me. So I'm excited to share. So I'm going to open my notes page, which you won't be able to see, and I won't be able to see you. So don't make faces at me because I can't see you and defend myself. So I'd ask too that everybody put their lines on mute just to avoid disruptions. So as I said, my name's Lisa. As I sat at my computer today procrastinating about making notes about speaking tonight, I did what every great procrastinator would do, and that would be check Facebook, of course. And certainly looking at today's sesh reading was very helpful for me. But the first thing that popped out was that statement, I'm slowly becoming the person I should have been a long time ago. And that is an example of my higher power or the laws of attraction for me, speaking to me. And when I wanted to know how to start, poof, it was just right in front of me. Now, our non-family groups are giving me the tools to be exactly where I am right now. I am very happy. And for a long time, I couldn't say that. Or better yet, I would say it, but I was lying to everybody. I would pretend that everything was okay But really, I was going through some difficult times. I had a lot of shame. I had shame over being the only divorced woman at work, the only woman living with a man originally that wasn't the father of my children, and then ended up having two deceased spouses. And then, of course, the big one, having two sons, period, and both of them having a substance use disorder. A lot of people in my life, family and friends, have been alcoholics, and somehow that was acceptable. My story with what is now referred to as substance use disorder, I started in about 1985 when I met and married my first husband. We met on a cruise. He was a bartender from Honduras. And I guess I was pretty naive, which, if you know me, that's really not a statement that I've had said about me a lot, that I'm naive. I think I compensate with overconfidence. Anyway, I can say now that I was naive. Excuse me. We spent a total of 2 weeks together, one on the cruise and one when I went to visit him in Miami. And 3 months later, he came to Canada for a visit. And 3 months after that, we were married. And this was in 85, as I said. In this short time, we spent most of the time trying to learn to communicate with each other. He was Spanish and I was not. I had a Spanish English dictionary that really helped a lot. And I remember vividly looking up things about addiction, about alcohol, not addiction, sorry, alcoholism. Um, looking up about equality for women in Canada, because that was, it was the 80s and I was quite a liberated feminist. And I wanted to make sure that he understood I wasn't about to put up with any shit. And he got that. He found I was crazy. But anyway, I had just graduated as a social worker too. So, I had to use all my skills. And I was going to save the world. Alcoholism was very important to me. Because, well, actually, not being an alcoholic was more important. My father was an alcoholic, and he was not in my life due to his alcohol addiction. And there was no way that I was going to do that to my children. When my husband said he had tried cocaine a few times, I believed him, of course. I'd never been in a situation where there was cocaine, so I had no reason to doubt him, and I knew nothing about it. Two beautiful children later, and we had a tragedy in my family. I had experienced the tragic loss of my only sibling, my brother. He died in a fire in London, Ontario. My youngest was only 6 weeks old at that time. I was devastated. I was postpartum. I had grieved the loss of my brother, but since I had children of my own, I was even more devastated for my mother. Watching her bury her child was more than I could bear when I had such a beautiful boy who was full of life. Burying your child doesn't matter how old they are, they're always your baby. The next few months were a total blur. I don't even remember, pardon me, who looked after my children as I was going through the funeral. I was in such a state. All I know is I went back to work 13 weeks later, after my baby, totally depressed. I was the executive director of a local branch of a national mental health association. So I knew that I was depressed, but I didn't need to go for therapy or to get help. I could get that at work from my coworkers and after all, I knew everything, so I could just fix myself. One day, I found a Canadian Tire credit card bill hidden in my husband's jacket pocket. Not that I was looking for it, but like many times in my life, I just fall into these things. I was borrowing his coat to go for a walk, and I was emptying his pockets and found the credit card bill that was maxed out. Canadian Tire credit card bill maxed out by cash advances. And I knew that was something wrong. And he admitted to using cocaine with his friends. I later found out it was actually crack. And he promised to stop, so I believed him. Things were starting to get rough. Now I know I was depressed, and he was too. He was self-medicating with cocaine or crack, as I later learned, and I had no patience or understanding, so I did not support him at all. About 6 months later, he loaned our car to one of his buddies to go get more drugs, and the guy smashed up the car. So that was it. We now had no transportation, no car, and certainly no money to have it fixed. I was furious, and that was it. He was out. I was not in a state, after having a sudden loss of my brother, I decided that life was too short for this or any more trauma. And I just thought, no, I don't want my sons to be around that kind of life. I'd vowed I wouldn't subject them to that kind of living. I believed I was doing the right thing. After all, my mother left my father because of alcoholism, and we turned out okay. Jump ahead 10 years. My oldest son was in high school when I would catch him drinking with his buddies, and I thought he was smoking marijuana occasionally, but I thought it was normal. I drank when I was a teenager, when I was in high school. I believed my son was responsible and careful. Now, don't get me wrong, I did not condone this or approve of it at all. We laugh now a little bit about the time I caught them drinking beer behind someone's house. And I barged back there and dumped the beer out in front of all of them. I was furious and really scared him, not enough to get him to stop doing that. Now, alcohol is not his problem drug, so it was never an issue. He was consequenced, of course, but his marks were okay in school. He was never an academic kid, but he was great at manipulation. He was so defensive and argumentative, he could make you believe anything. Even the principal at school said he should be a lawyer. He was the kind of kid that could make you believe anything he said. A few friends and my spouse at the time had accused him of stealing from them. And when I asked my son if he stole from them, he said no. So, of course, I believed him. And my friends used to criticize me all the time about the way I was with my kids. I always believed them. Eventually, I had to ask him to leave because he was always smoking marijuana, and he was finished college, and it was just so upsetting for me. It wasn't legal then, and I just couldn't stand it. So I thought, no, it's time to go. And then he went on and, did okay at that point, or so I thought. Then when my youngest went to high school, that's when real trouble began. He was 14, and I got called from the school because he was selling marijuana. I was absolutely hysterical when I got that call. My older son was there and was quite concerned for me, and he insisted that he was going to come with me to support me. And I was very grateful for his support. And he was about 17, I guess. I learned years later he was only there to get the weed that his brother had hidden somewhere at the school. But my youngest had been caught red-handed with the scale, baggies, marijuana, the whole, all his little kit. He was sent to a diversion program so that if he completed the program, he wouldn't have a criminal record. That was my biggest concern. Doing something stupid at 14 could ruin it for him as an adult. At that point, he wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and he had the brains to do that if he wanted. He told me, though, he didn't smoke pot. He was only selling it to make a few dollars, and I'm embarrassed to say that I believed him. I felt so much shame about this, I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't talk to my colleagues at work. I couldn't talk to my friends. I couldn't talk to our family physician. I didn't want him to be labeled. I'd worked in mental health for so long. I knew the stigma was brutal, and I thought I was protecting them from that. Things were quiet for a few years. I'd taken a new job and was loving it, and I'm still in that same job 20 years later today. Then my youngest went off to a school trip to Europe, paid for by grandma. It was an opportunity. I knew I could never provide for him, of course. So they were going to Amsterdam, where drinking and smoking marijuana was legal at 16. And I'll never understand why the school would take a group of kids to Amsterdam and not think that they're going to, have a beer or smoke dope because, it's legal there. But not that I'm defending the fact that they got caught doing it or they did and got in trouble, but they'd all been warned if they were caught doing anything like this, parents would be responsible to get them home. There were so many of them, though, that got caught. The teacher couldn't afford to send them all home on his credit card. And of course, my son said, well, he wasn't smoking. He was just in his room and they were all there. And I believed him. The principal reluctantly suspended him along with the others because the principal believed him too. But a week later, he was called again. To surprise, he was lying. He'd actually been the ringleader. 20-day suspension that time. And a month later, he got caught again smoking in his school uniform. And this time he was expelled. And that was it. Things just went downhill. I did get him into another school, but at 18, in an anger, rage, I slapped him across the face. I didn't hit my sons when they were young, but I lost it, slapped him in the face. And I knew that it was time he was going to have to go because things were only going to get worse. And then he was nicely enabled by his stepfather and his grandmother. Of course, I say they enabled him, probably did too, but they were always worse than me. Anyway, my oldest son was now a social worker too, and he was partying. He had kids. Everything was going great. The younger one ended up finally breaking down, saying you need to go to detox for treatment. He was getting evicted from his apartment, so detox was a quick way to get mommy to handle everything. And he ended up fully diagnosed substance use disorder, addicted to crack, meth, and alcohol. He was psychotic most of the time, and later we learned it was drug-related, not psychiatric illness. The police even called me at work to warn me that I wasn't safe. He was threatening me, and they believed I was at risk. How could this be? He was my baby. I knew deep inside that he loved me, and I knew I loved him, and he knew that too. Wasn't that enough? I have so much love for my sons. Couldn't that be enough? I had driven him to a surgeon. He'd had some surgery, post-surgical, and the surgeon instructed me to go home. He was sending my son to psychiatric hold, and he said I wasn't safe. And I was surprised to learn that he was back on crystal meth at that time. Anyway, this went on and on and on. My youngest son ended up going to live with his grandmother, where he locked her in a room. Police came and took him, but that was 6 years ago, almost 6 years ago, and he has been abstinent ever since. Works the 12-step program faithfully, finished college, graduated on the Presidential Honor Roll, and he's a social worker too. And amazingly, he just received another award at work for being Rookie of the Year. So he's doing quite well. Before I could catch my breath, suddenly my other son had a horrible breakup. His girlfriend started a new job and got herself a boyfriend in that new job, and she was gone. He was heartbroken. 2 daughters with 2 different women. For a long time, he shared custody, and that worked, but he was so devastated. When they split up, he started doing cocaine all the time and then progressed to fentanyl. His heart was crushed, couldn't focus on anything. Luckily, he was able to be on sick leave from work, so he didn't lose his job. He ended up losing access to his kids, and which made sense to me in terms of putting the kids at risk. But the kids were also then taken away from me as well. And they were my life. I loved being a grandmother. I loved everything about it. And that was it. They were gone. And by that point, I thought I've got to do something because I was falling apart. And so I just Googled Nar-Anon, and that was it. And that was 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And I've been coming ever since. It's been something that I can't explain how. It just works. It just works. It was COVID. I started coming 7 days a week. It was the best therapy I could ever get in my pajamas. I didn't have to go out. It was fantastic with a group of people that got it, didn't judge. I could cry at meetings. I remember one time losing at a meeting because I was asked to chair a meeting and I could see I had a big red heart on this date in my calendar and I couldn't remember what the red heart was for. And then I remembered it was my granddaughter's birthday and I'd forgotten it because, and I'm sure lots of you had heard that story. It still kills me when I say it. Anyway, I spent thousands on legal fees, not knowing that my son was addicted to fentanyl. I had no idea. And that was it, thousands. And many of you have heard me say, I think that one day we should, instead of putting our name in the screen, we should put how much money we've spent on our addicted loved ones. And I'm sure it's well up into the millions how much we've spent. Anyway, now I've actually stepped back from some of the service I've been doing. I'm the GSR, outgoing GSR, I might add, to the people of Helping Hand and Heart. I'm hoping to be the outgoing GSR and someone else will step up. Sorry, the founding member of Helping Hand and Heart. I was also a GSR for another group. I started the Ontario Speaks, and this program, I have 3 sponsees. 2 of them have finished working the steps. I have one that's got a couple more steps to go, but you know, they're from all over. So one, I met her in person last year. She's from North Carolina. That was fabulous. My other one that's closer to me, she's in Michigan, and we're planning to meet at some point this summer in person. Although I've met with them weekly and know a lot about them, a lot of their intimate stories and feelings. And there is something different about getting to meet them in person. And I've just spent 2 weeks in England where I met in person one of my sponsees. And what an incredible opportunity to be invited to go across the world directly as a result of addiction. So there's been a lot of positive things that have come out of my son's having a substance use disorder. You know, it's been great for me. I've had therapy more than I've ever had in my life. And I've met some fabulous people. I've got some friends locally that we talk to regularly. I talk to lots of different people. I've got wonderful sponsees, great friends. And this program, I can truly say, saved my life. Not that I was suicidal. However, I was starting to have a lot of physical issues as a result. High blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was gaining weight again because I was eating crap. I never seemed to get the symptom of losing weight. That's the one I'm looking for. So if anybody, and I know there's some pretty nasty diseases that you lose weight, but anyway. So I think that's all I'll say for now. I'm sure I could go on and on, but I won't because we have another speaker here tonight. So thank you very much for letting me share and listening. And to the newcomers, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. It works if you work it. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank
you
you,
so
Lisa.
much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Thank you for sharing, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lisa.
Thank you. Okay, Derek. Derek is our guest tonight from Narcotics Anonymous. Are you there, Derek? I see you're on mute.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, and Derek is going to keep his camera off, but we're going to continue to roll the recording. So, Derek, you go right ahead and speak as long as you like.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Okay, I'll start off with my name is Derek and I am an addict. I have been clean since April 24th, 2015. I'd also like to thank Shelley for asking me to do this. It was quite the honor to be asked, actually. So I guess I'll get started with I was born in 85 to a 17-year-old drug addict and a 19-year-old alcoholic. So I was kind of predisposed to the condition, but that's not how it all started for me to begin with. I was raised by them and multiple people in and out of their doors as they were barely ever there till 2 years old when I was taken by CAS. and put into foster homes until the age of 4 years old. Now, while I was in foster homes, I was sexually abused by V1's teenage son, made to do things that I didn't know were wrong at the time because I was so young. That has a big part to play, I believe, later on in my addiction, as it's part of the traumas that I have suffered. But as typical for most addicts, we start young, wine at the dinner tables with parents and family, stuff like that. My father used to give me beer caps of homemade beer once in a while as I was a kid, but at a young age like that, I never knew anything about it. Sorry, I have a hard time speaking to as well. It's not something I typically tend to do, as I have a hard time sharing. Yeah, growing up, once I was adopted, pretty regular home, played hockey, played baseball, never really wanted for anything, always had all the stuff that I need. But going through school, I was bullied quite a bit because I was always the kid who got the good grades, who told on the teachers, on the kids, and everything else. So I kind of put myself in those positions, but our parents would always told us to do the right thing until when we were being abused or hurt like that. Fast forward to high school, I found my first drug of choice, and that took a toll on my grades as well as friendships. I was doing it to fit in with people that I normally wouldn't have even hung out with. Missed classes, grades, skipped school, got in fights with numerous people. My relationship with my parents started to falter a little, but it was still manageable at that point. I didn't think I was really doing anything wrong. I thought I was just having fun. Go to about grade 11. I was just turned 17, and I started having some health conditions and getting in with the wrong crowds. My best friend that I had since I was like 14 moved out of town. I went and started hanging out with a crowd that I never thought anything bad of. They were the cool kids. What could go wrong? We started drinking, partying. Next thing I know, a couple of them went and did something illegal. Forgot some stuff at the place they went and did it at. I figured, hey, what the heck? I'll help them out. I'll go get it. I ended up taking a bunch of stuff from the house and getting my first trip. That was an eye opener for my parents that something was going on. Cops showed up at the door. I wasn't there until about 5 hours later. Got told to stay there. Got put on probation for 2 years instead of being put into a juvenile detention center or anything like that. And my parents told me that at the end of that school year, I was going to be out on my own. They kindly paid my rent for first and last with a bunch of Queens students in downtown Kingston. And it was pretty much off to the races from there. I was, like I said, I was on probation. I was out past curfew all the time, finding more people to hang out with that were not good influences, trying other drugs, and so on and so on with that. I will not try to get into the war stories because some of them can get pretty bad. If anyone has, well, obviously everyone here has someone who's been affected by alcoholism or drug use. We all know what it's like for that. Fast forward a couple years, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease as well as a spinal condition called ankylosing spondylitis. I lost 110 pounds in 6 months, and it took them 2 years to diagnose that. Met my first fiance a couple months after I found that out. Everything was good, got myself a full-time job. Life was basically back to normal, except for the partying on the weekends. We'd go out to the bars. I would drink beyond what I would need to. And next thing I know, we're having a child. That's about 3.5 years into that relationship, we had the child. My daughter has been the light of my life, but unfortunately I haven't seen her since she was 6 months old because my addictions forced me and my ex to split up at that time. I wasn't long after that. I am in another relationship for another 3.5 years, and again, my drinking and everything took a toll on that. If it hadn't been for my second fiance, I would never have found the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. She ended up going first, probably about 2 months before I had. And I was like, I don't need that. I can do this myself. Cold turkey, white knuckled for probably about a month and a half, 2 months myself before I realized that I couldn't do it. And I went back in. A couple months later, I walked back into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous and was pretty steady member for about 74 days, no, 72 days. And then figured, what the heck, I got the hang of this. I do drugs normally. Well, that wasn't the case. So there I was again, but this time it was more drugs, harder drugs, more frequently. Instead of only on weekends, it was, oh, I'll do it till Monday, or oh, I'll only do it every other day, until it was regular use every day, all the time. Could never get enough. That went on for probably, what was it? Let's see, 6 years till I was 29. Walked back into the rooms again, off and on. Could never really seem to get a hold of the program. I knew there's people who cared, but didn't believe in it that much. And then finally got myself into my first treatment center when I turned 30. And I made it through that program for 56 days, because when you walk in there, take your cell phone, do everything else that they need to do. What they didn't know is that I had a second cell phone with no SIM card or anything in it, and I hid that from them so that I could listen to music while I was there. At 56 days, they called me to the office, asked me if I had one, and out of nowhere, I was completely honest with them, not knowing that this had been part of the program actually slowly working its way into my life. And they kicked me in. I was upset with myself, obviously. Don't hold anything against them for kicking me out of that program. It was a great experience while I was there. I learned quite a bit. But that marked the last run that I had with drugs. My friend, person I thought was my friend, took me on a 13-day run for my birthday, doing probably twice the amount of drugs and drinking that I would normally do, until April 23rd, when I walked into the Kingston Detox Center and dropped to my knees, looked at them and said I was done. Which at that point, they told me I couldn't continue to use the detox as a hotel room because I had been in pretty much every other week for 3 to 7 days consistently. Now at the Kingston Detox, they have you go shower, get cleaned up after your intake. And I did all that, and I went back to the common room, was sitting there watching TV, and one of the workers came out and looked at me and goes, "There's 2 beds in Ottawa available at a place called Billy Buffett's House of Sobriety, or Billy Buffett's House of Welcome. And it's in Vanier in Ottawa." And I instantly looked at him and went, "I'll go." Called my dad. The worker made the call to the place so that I could get a bed. Called my dad. He said he'd take me. 14 days later, I was on my way to Ottawa. Now, typically they say people, places, and things, but one thing we need to avoid, and the geographical here doesn't change, work for people. So when I arrived in Ottawa, it was a house full of 14, 15 other guys, shared a room. The gentleman who ran the place was an old I believe it was Air Force, clean cut, crew cut, no bullshit type of guy. And automatically I was like, I don't like this guy. Every morning up by 7 a.m., make your bed, shower, shave, downstairs by 7:30 for breakfast. And I did that for 3 months while attending 5 to 10 meetings a week because there was nothing else for me to do at that point. And now that was in another fellowship. That was in the sister fellowship, AA. And that's actually where I got my recovery this time around. But yeah, 3 months into living at Billy Buffett's, they sent me off to a treatment center called Renaissance in Whitby. Well, technically Brooklyn, but it's Whitby. And I completed the 28-day program there with the help of the counselors and everything else there. I honestly haven't looked back. Uh, I had it suggested afterwards when I came back to Vanier after completing the program that I do the steps. Well, it wasn't suggested, I'm sorry. I was told by a counselor that I needed to do the steps. And I just looked at him and went, no. I spent about 5 months in a second stage living house above a treatment center. And after my time there, I was moved to another second stage house where I was able to stay for up to a year, which I did. And at that house, another counselor suggested that I try to do the steps. And the fact that he suggested it and didn't tell me that I needed to was all that I needed. So I got myself a sponsor at the time, worked through the steps. And to be completely honest, the steps changed my life. I finished my 12th step. I woke up the next morning and I had no urge to use it all. Now, that being said, it hasn't always been easy. I have taken my will back a few times on a few things, and I've paid the consequences for them. About, what is it now? 5.5 years ago, I had, no, 6 years ago, I had the surgery for my Crohn's where I had a bowel resection done and had a ileostomy put in on top of having the Crohn's and the back condition because my Crohn's was so severe now. And I couldn't work. And typical addiction thinking, I couldn't work. How can I make money? Need to pay my bills. I made a phone call and I started selling drugs. 2 years into that, I was caught by the police, spent 3 years on house arrest, which I was allowed to go to work at, got myself a full-time job, and haven't looked back. I got paroled to Peterborough. I now live here, have a full-time job, have friends in the program up here. I fully immersed myself back into NA as well as AA. I have a few friends that aren't currently in the rooms that I do miss dearly, and I try and get in contact with them as much as I can to see if I can get them to come back in some way or somehow. But as like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. What else can I say here? I definitely don't have the life that I used to have, though. I don't, even after selling drugs, I thought I'd miss the money, but I'd rather make money the right way. Like, it's just, there's a sense of pride I've got from not doing drugs and actually making money the proper way. And this program does help people if they're willing to do the work. It took me years, but I definitely have got to where I know what I need to do, not what I want to do. And that's the best thing. Like, life isn't always going to be easy for me, but I have that choice today where I don't have to use drugs. And as long as I keep that in my mind and I get up and I do my morning routine, my 1, 2, 3, the steps, take my personal inventory every day and make my amends promptly when I know I'm wrong, then I know my life's going to be okay. I'm a big part of service in the aspect that I talk to a lot of people when they're not doing well. I used to do a lot of service in the rooms, but I took a step away from that because there was a lot of controversy around some things, and I didn't feel like I needed to be part of that, and I didn't want that part in my recovery anymore. Yeah, I definitely am not where I want to be in life, but I definitely where I think I need to be at this point in time. I do have goals, I do have dreams, but as long as I keep doing the right things, those will happen eventually for me. Yeah, I don't know how much else I got to say. I think that's pretty much it for me. Like I said, I'm not a big speaker. This is only the second time in 10 years that I've shared, well, told my story.
Wow.
But I'm starting to get to the point where if someone asks me to do it, I'm becoming more willing to do it. So thank you all for listening and allowing me to take part.
Well, Derek, you just
Thanks
keep
for
at it
sharing.
because you did a great job.
Thanks,
great
Derek.
speaker.
Thank
you for
the share.
Yes, thank you for sharing with us. And
Thank you,
Thanks,
Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
yeah,
Thank you, Derek.
great,
Thank you, Derek.
great recommendation, Shelley. So, Derek, keep at it. Keep.
Thank you. I
keep
had faith in him. I know he's a good guy.
Excellent.
Thanks for coming out, Derek.
Excellent.
Yay, Peterborough. I lived there for 6 years, Derek. How's Lansdowne Mall?
Okay. Okay. So we've got a few minutes. It's only 10:02. So would anybody like to share? One of the things that we do at this group is we talk about something that we did that was good for ourselves in the past week or so. So I'll start by saying what I did that was good for myself is I've bought myself a new back door for my car because I smashed into a post. And so I need to replace it. So I'm going to be positive and say, I thought about that right this minute. I'm going to call it, I wanted a new door on my brand new car because why not? So, and Derek, would you like to share something that you did that was good for yourself this week?
I got out of myself and spoke tonight.
Awesome. Good job. Good job. Would anybody else like to either share or tell us what you did that was good for yourself? Lisa, I see your hand is up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa. Thank you so much, Derek, for that wonderful share, and for Lisa also for your great share. Really